It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this channel, Literature Hub 247. This is a channel where the art and science of literature are discussed. Today, we are discussing an African poem titled The Grieved Land. The poem is titled The Grieved Land and it is composed by Agostinho Neto. This is a poem that discusses the colonialism of Africa. This colonialism took place after the Berlin Conference of 1884. The poem x-rays the effect of colonialism on Africans. Let's go and do justice to the poem. The Grieved Lands by Agostinho Neto. The grieved lands of Africa and the tearful woes of ancient and modern slaves, and the degrading sweat of impure dance of other seas, grieved. The grieved lands of Africa, in the infamous sensation of the stunning perfume of the flower, crushed in the forest by the wickedness of iron and fire, the grieved lands. The grieved lands of Africa, in the dream soon undone, in jingling of garrulous keys, and in the stable laughter and victorious voice of lament, and in the unconscious brilliance of sensations of the grieved lands of Africa, alive in themselves and with us alive. They bubble up in dreams, decked with dances of baobabs over balances by the antelope, in the perpetual alliance of everything that lives. They shout out the sound of life, shout it, even the corpses thrown up by the Atlantic, in portrait offering of incoherence, and death and in the clearness of rivers. They live, the grieved land of Africa, in the harmonious sound of consciences, contained in the honest blood of men, in the strong desire of men, in the sincerity, in the pure and simple rightness of the stars' existence. They live, the grieved lands of Africa, because we are living and are imperishable particles of the grieved lands of Africa. That is the text of the poem. Now let's identify some difficult words and expressions in the poem. So we are going to give the meaning according to how it is used in the poem, so that we can understand the poem better. The first word there is grieved, which means sad, degrading, inhuman, when somebody is being treated inhumanly, like animals. The infamous sensation of the stunning perfume of the flower means to incapacitate or make it less attractive. Gaulers means jailers. Stifled means suppressed. Putrid means rotten. Imperishable means unconquerable. This one is referring to Africans. That is, despite all those ugly experiences, we are not conquerable. We are imperishable. Now this is the interpretation of the poem. The first stanza begins with the poet going into memory lane on the causes of African wars, which is attributed to the ancient and modern slavery by the Europeans. So the poet divides the slavery into two. One is ancient while the other is modern. Now let's quote from the poem. The Grieved Lands of Africa and the tearful woes of ancient and modern slaves and the degrading sweat of impure downs of other seas. Grief. That's quote and unquote. The ancient slavery is the transatlantic slave trade where Africans were forcefully taken away to Europe to work on their sugarcane plantation with their mouths padlocked. So that one is the ancient slavery, that is where our people were captured, but anyway, they were captured as slaves and transported to Europe to work on their sugarcane plantation. Let's continue. Africans were maltreated and dehumanized. The modern slavery can be attributed to different anti-African policies, like the stiffer policies of the IMF and other world bodies. That is, what the person is trying to bring out here is that even presently, we still have this modern slavery. That is, the slavery has been modernized by these Western words. So inside the example of I am trying to bring the example of this modern slavery. It may not be in the poem, but it is embedded in the poem. So that's where he's trying to point to. That is the use of IMF giving us the stiffer policies that we must follow. Also, the different lottery programs of the foreign countries can also be categorized as an example of modern slavery. All this contributes to the woes and downfall of Africans. So, but that's by the way, but it is embedded in the poem. In the second stanza, the poet refers to Africans as quote-unquote flour and the Europeans as iron and fire. That is, in the poem, is referring to Africans as flour, while the Europeans are the iron and fire. He uses flowers for Africa to show how beautiful and glamorous Africa was before the Europeans came and disorganized us. So he refers to Africa as flower because of the beauty, because of the beauty in Africa before the advent of these Europeans, before they come to disorganize us. They crossed the flower, removing the beauty and the perfume. This reflects how Africans were incapacitated as a result of the wickedness of quote-unquote iron and fire, the Europeans' colonial master. Remember that we said that Africans are represented by flowers, while the Europeans are represented by iron and fire. It's now saying here that iron and fire is now crushing the flower. That is, Europeans are crushing the Africans. Quote, the Grieved Lands of Africa, in the infamous sensation of the stunning perfume of the flower, crossing the forest by the wickedness of iron and fire, the Grieved Lands. Quote. The third stanza discusses how the Africans' dreams are shattered by the white colonial masters when Africans are arrested, dehumanized, and have their hands and mouths padlocked. While the colonial masters are happy with their gruesome achievements for capturing Africans, the Africans are left to lament their woes as a result of maltreatment gotten from the white men. They shatter the natural environment and the cultural gatherings of the people. That is, our people are disorganized. Quote, the Grieved Lands of Africa, and the dreams soon undone in jingling of Gaola's keys, and in the stable laughter and victorious voice of lament, and in the unconscious brilliance of sensations of the Grieved Lands of Africa alive. In themselves, and with us alive, they bubble up in dreams, decked with dances by baobabs overbalanced by the antelope, in the perpetual alliance of everything that lives. Unquote. The first stanza chronicles how Africans are inhumanly treated, punished, and gruesomely punished, which leads to the death of many, as life is ejected from them through severe punishment and starving. The dead bodies are then thrown into the sea. That is, when on transit to Europe, they throw the dead body of Africans into the sea, into the ocean. Quote, they shout out the sound of life, shout it, even the corpses thrown up by the Atlantic, in poetry offering of incoherence and death and the clearness of rivers. Unquote. The next stanza and the concluding stanza x-rays the honest and strong determination of Africans in achieving their dreams no matter what happens. The desire to overcome all odds, and this makes Africans imperishable. So far, Africans are still living. They are also in Africa. That is, despite all those experiences we were exposed to, we are still living. Quote, they live the grieved lands of Africa because we are living and are imperishable particles of the grieved land of Africa. Unquote. That is, we are unconquerable. That we are still alive, we are still living in Africa. These are some of the themes identified in the poem. The first one is colonialism. In fact, this is the subject matter of the poem and also one of the themes. This is the forceful and arbitrary domination of a group of people by another group of people. A good example is the domination of Africans by the Europeans after the Berlin Conference of 1884, where Africans were partitioned. The poem vividly captures how Africa was captured and the experiences of Africans in the hand of the colonial masters. There's also the theme of inhumanity. Africans were greatly dehumanized and badly treated as if they were not human beings. They were captured and enslaved on their own land by the colonial masters. They had their hands and legs chained and padlocked as well as their mouths, as if we are animals, as if Africans are animals. There is oppression. Colonialism goes with oppression. Africans were greatly oppressed by these colonial masters on their land, with the maltreatment meted out to them. There is also the theme of death. Many Africans lost their lives through the inhuman treatment meted out on them by the colonial masters, and the dead bodies are emptied into the ocean, especially those that died in transit. Quote, even the corpses thrown up by the Atlantic in putrid offering of incoherence and death in the clearness of rivers. Unquote. Determination. Despite the inhumanity and the severe punishments meted out to Africans, the strong determination is still there. Africans were so determined to achieve their dreams against all. That is, Africans are determined to achieve their aims. Quote, in the harmonious sound of consciences contained in the honest blood of men, in the strong desire of men, in the sincerity, in the pure and simple rightness of the stars' existence. Unquote. That is giving credence to that theme, that is theme of determination. Now, the poetic devices used in the poem, the first one is repetition. The grieved lands of Africa, quote and unquote, is repeated severally in the poem to lay emphasis and to tell the people how the poet feels about the experiences of Africans in the hands of the colonial masters. There is also the repetition of Ndi, quote and unquote, in some lines of the poem. We also have metaphor. We have this in the second stanza, where Africans are referred to as flower, quote and unquote, and the colonial masters are referred to as iron and fire, quote and unquote. There is also alliteration. This is the repetition of a consonant sound at the beginning of two or more words in a line of a poem. This is used in lines 3, 7, 16, 22, 24, 25, 27, and 37. Please, let's check it from the poem. There is also the use of euphemism. This is when something absurd is presented in a mild way. In line 25 of the poem, the killing of Africans is presented in the mild way. Quote, they shout out the sound of life, unquote. There's also the use of imagery. This is when we are having the mental picture of what we are reading in a poem in our brain. As we are going through the poem, the pictures of what happened to Africans during the period of the enslavement of Africans reflect in our brains. That is the work of imagery. When you are going through some poems or you reading a literature text, you'll be feeling as if you are imagining the picture in your brain, as if you are watching a film. So that is imagery. Now talking about the language of the poem. The poet's choice of words and the appropriate figures of speech simplifies the understanding of the subject matter. That is, the poet has used the appropriate words and expressions as well as the poetic devices. So that is the poem, The Grieved Land. If you have any question on this poem or any question on literature in English, you can send your question through the message box and I will answer the question. Also, if you are new on this channel, try and subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscription button down there. You are also free to share my videos on any social media platform. You can also invite your friend to join us on this platform because there are a lot of things to gain. And also, I'm also using this medium to inform you that all the literature texts are already analyzed on this poem. There are also past questions answered according to the dictates of WAEC and NECO, according to the guidelines of WAEC and NECO. There are lots of things to gain on this channel. You can also visit our website, that is www.literatureHub247.com. Again, www.literatureHub247.com for literature materials. So when you search for the website on Google, just click on bookshop. There's a page there, bookshop. Click on bookshop and you'll be taken to this page. That's where we have our ebooks. This one contains past questions, 2021 past question, WAEC and NECO. So I will recommend this one for those of us that will be writing WAEC and NECO exam this year, so that you know how to answer questions, because that's where failure starts. You may know the question, you understand the question, but when you don't know the guidelines that you need to follow, that's a problem. So I will recommend this for those of us that are writing WAEC and NECO. And this one covers 2022 questions, WAEC and NECO. So this one is general knowledge on literature, background knowledge to literature. Those are the rudiments of literature. This one contains the 12 poems that are recommended by WAEC and NECO, and it is simplified. That's why it's titled Simplified Poetry. This one covers the drama and text prose, and this one is on likely examination questions, and it contains 140 likely examination questions and answers. They are very useful for literature students. Just click on download and follow the instruction. Well, I appreciate you as you are following this channel. God bless you.